Whatever you do, please, I beg you, do not follow your heart. Hey, it's Lucas Scrobot, and you're listening to Weaver and Loom. Imagine that you are an engineer, one of the best engineers in the entire world, and you are about to build and you're designing the greatest building that ever existed. It's called your destiny. Now, as you're designing your destiny, you're thinking of all the cool things that you can do that no one else has ever done before. And you come across a part in your design where you realize that your materials aren't strong enough. They're too heavy, and that your tower will end up collapsing underneath the weight of gravity. The force of gravity, 9.8 meters per second squared. But you are the most brilliant engineer in the entire world. So what do? Well, after working the problem, flipping it around, turning it every which way, you realize, I will just change the force of gravity from 9.8 meters per second squared to 7.95 meters per second squared. And now the math will work out. Or, I can change the strength of my steel just by changing the numbers a little bit. I can just tweak it a little bit, and all my numbers will work out just fine. Please tell me, what will happen when you build that tower under the assumption that you could change the laws of nature, that you could change the force of gravity from 9.8 meters per second squared to 7.25 meters per second squared? What would happen? Yeah, that's right. The tower would collapse. Your dreams, your destinies, your life would end up in destruction, in a heap of ruins. Well, good news and bad news. The good news is, if you do not try to change the laws of gravity and you actually honor those things which are constant in the world as constant, like gravity, like the speed of light, like the laws of nature, that it will go well with you and your tower will survive. But the bad news is, if you have the audacity to think that you can change the laws of gravity, that you can change the force of gravity, then your life will end up in destruction. I was having coffee with Eltamash a couple weeks ago, and Eltamash is a amazing photographer. If you do not follow him on Instagram, then you should. His link is in the show notes. Eltamash and I were talking about how it seems that the moral fabric of America is disintegrating in front of our eyes. That it seems like their sense of morality is falling apart, and with it, the country seems to be in this downward spiral. Why is it spiraling downwards? Why is the fabric of society disintegrating in front of our eyes? It's because, on the macro, people in America have traded principles for following their heart. Now, when I talk about following your heart, I do not mean don't follow your dreams, don't follow what is in your heart to do, your destiny. Do not chase and pursue the things that you're passionate about. But following your heart means doing what feels good, doing what feels right in your heart, instead of living by principles. When we live by principles, we are saying, like, hey, I recognize if I cross this line, that my life will end up in ruins and destruction. Maybe not immediately. I might have immediate gains and immediate rewards. Think about people who cook their books with creative accounting, or people who go outside of a marriage and have an affair, or people who start using opiates and drugs. What happens? It feels good in the immediate. It feels good to have an affair outside of marriage, to get your emotional needs met when your marriage is struggling, when you don't feel it anymore over here, when you're having struggles, or when your finances are having struggles. So just going to cook it a little bit, just going to tweak it here and there, and hey, I have financial rewards immediately. Or turning to drugs when you're emotionally in pain and suffering or bored, and you're turning to drugs to fill a void. It's great in the short run. It feels great. It feels good. You have that high. You followed your heart. Well, it doesn't take a genius or a psychic to look 10, 20, 30 years in the future and see where those decisions will lead up. As Sun Tzu said, we talked about this a few episodes ago, that your thoughts become your actions become your behaviors become your habits, and your habits become your destiny. When we have a thought that says, I can break and tweak the rules, the laws of nature here. Yeah, lying here, it'll be okay. It will actually really be helpful. Yeah, stealing a little bit here, that would be okay. It will be helpful. Oh, yeah, breaking my vows and my covenants to my wife or my husband, that actually feels good. Rather than actually fixing the problem, not recognizing that you are perpetuating a problem that your children are now going to deal with, and they'll have to walk through an enormous amount of pain from your divorce. Following our hearts is the sure way to see our dreams, our destinies, the things that we could be, our potential, end up in ruins. So instead, I urge you today, follow your principles. Look throughout the world. Look throughout yourself. Look throughout the laws of nature and say, where are the principles? What are the maxims and the principles, the virtues that I need to order my life around? And I am going to follow the principle in spite of, or I'm going to follow the principle even when the desires of my heart might be pulling me in another direction that I know will end up in certain destruction, because we do not have the power to arbitrarily change the laws of nature, change the laws of gravity, change the laws of morality in the world. We talk about weaving our destiny here at Weaver and Loom. We talk about owning our stories and owning our futures at Own the Future. Well, with that, we can't make up our story. We can't make up our story. But we can write our story. We can understand our story. We can shape our story and make active decisions moving forward in our story. But we can't just make up our story. Likewise, we can't just make up our destiny. We can't break the rules and laws of nature. But we can understand it. And we can live a principled life that we might achieve everything that we could possibly dream of in this lifetime. So please, this morning, this afternoon, reflect on the principles by which you've chosen to live by. Live and follow those principles. Do not follow your heart. Thanks for listening to this episode of Weaver and Loom. If you have any questions, I would love to hear them. You can visit lucasgrobot.com, and right there on the website, there's a little button that you can click and leave a message that will show up here on Weaver and Loom. Also, If you have a friend that you think would really love this podcast, would be encouraged by this episode, please text them or DM them and share it with that person. Finally, I'm Lucas Grobot, and you're listening to Weaver and Loom, where destiny is woven.